Ah, yes. Howard Phillips Lovecraft. The dude who invented the most wrongly portrayed monster to ever have existed. The man who realized that it's really scary, that the world as a whole doesn't really give a fuck about you. The man who gets remembered not by people reading his stories, but by people tangentially having heard about him somewhere, calling themselves Shub-Niggurath on social media. The man who had a cat named Nick. The stories that Lovecraft wrote weren't really popular at the time. They only got popular after he died. But not in a, we're all gonna pretend we liked this all along because he's dead now way, like it was with Michael Jackson or something. No, nobody cared about Lovecraft when he was alive. And nobody cared about him when he died. But people over time started to be like, hey, these stories, some of them are pretty good. Some of them are interesting. Some of them are compelling. Yes, indeed. And so Lovecraft's story kind of became niche popular after his death. Now, the only real way that currently exists on the 10th of November 2023, the only way that really exists to consume those stories is to read them or to listen to them as an audiobook. If you happen to not be able to read, like me. Now, why am I bringing this up? Look at other works of fiction. The Lord of the Rings, or Tolkien's world in general, Harry Potter, or the Wizarding world as it's called now. Even way, way, way older stuff. Homer's Odyssey. All these things, they all started out as literary texts which you were supposed to read. But now you don't have to. There are movies, video games, series, and all kinds of other stuff with which you can consume that stuff. You can consume The Lord of the Rings without even touching a book. You can... This isn't The Lord of the Rings, but we're gonna pretend it is. You can be fucking holding the book like this, the Lord of the Rings book, and still experience the Lord of the Rings. Because there are movies that convey those stories. Other Tolkien works as well. There are Harry Potter movies. The later ones are absolute garbage and don't really make any sense at all whatsoever. The first few ones are pretty okay. You can also play Lord of the Rings as video games, and Harry Potter. But with Lovecraft, it's a different story. There are no Lovecraft movies or Lovecraft video games or anything that are not complete garbage. There's only one single adaptation I can think of, and that's a silent film, and it's a fucking silent film. Fuck off, right? That is the only thing that I have ever heard of to be even remotely faithful to Lovecraft's writing. But most of the times his stuff gets adapted, it turns out to be absolute shit. Why? Because they depart from the source material way too much. Now that happens when you adapt stuff. Lord of the Rings movie, the happening is quite a bit different than in the books. Nobody gets threatened by Old Man Willow. Nobody gets saved by Tom Bombadil. Tom Bombadil doesn't even exist in the movies. After Bilbo leaves the Shire, it takes like a couple of days until Gandalf sends Frodo away. In the book, it was 17 years. Changes are made to adaptations. And if they are made in a way that makes sense, that is totally fine. Right? The Lord of the Rings movies are long and bloated enough. It's not strictly necessary to have them hanging around at Tom Bombadil's house for however many weeks. Okay? Okay. But for movies and other media based on Lovecraft stuff, they depart so far from the source material that there is no resemblance anymore. The Color Out of Space, 2021, I think, with Nicolas Cage. That movie has almost nothing to do with Lovecraft's story. The premise is different, the setting is different, the characters are all different. Apart from Nicolas Cage's character, whom they gave the wrong name, if I'm not mistaken, apart from him, every character is either substantially changed or just swapped outright, replaced by an entirely new character. Like the fucking hippie dude. Who's he supposed to be? Is that supposed to be Emmy Pierce? Because he does not fulfill the role that Emmy Pierce fulfills. What that movie is, The Color Out of Space, is basically a movie about Nicolas Cage being fucking crazy. And all the names of the characters are Easter eggs. The daughter's name is Lavinia because Lavinia Wheatley is a pivotal character in the Dunwich Horror. The daughter doesn't exist in the original story, by the way. In the original story, they have 3 sons and no daughter. The other 2 sons have completely different names. None of them match the names in the story. But hey, Lavinia. It's a fucking Easter egg for Lovecraft fans. Sure, why not? The surveyor, who, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't have any name in the original story. His name is Howard Phillips. First name Howard, last name Phillips. Easter egg. Because Lovecraft's first and second names are Howard and Phillips. Okay, whatever. There's also at least one character called Ward or something. Who's probably a reference to the case of Charles Dexter Ward. But the story is completely different. If you changed the title, call it Nicolas Cage's Crazy Adventures on the Alpaca Farm, nobody would even know that it's based on The Color Out of Space. No one would be able to tell that there's any correlation between those two. And no, alpacas don't feature in the original story. And I like that movie. It's an entertaining movie, especially if you like Nicolas Cage. And I don't like Nicolas Cage, but I still found the movie entertaining. But it has nothing to do with the short story, The Color Out of Space. Almost nothing. Then you have this video game, which is called The Call of Cthulhu. One could maybe think that it's ostensibly somehow based on or related to Lovecraft's short story Call of Cthulhu. But from what I can tell, it isn't. I've never played it, and I don't intend to. I've only watched a bit of other people play it. So It is possible, though very unlikely, but possible that I'm wrong. But from what I've seen, it doesn't really have anything to do with the Call of Cthulhu. Once again, the characters are all different. All the characters that I have seen in that game are new creations, and that they are not from the story. And none of the characters from the story seem to be in the game, at least as far as I have consumed it. Right? It seems to be just some kind of stupid detective point-and-click adventure thing that they mistakenly placed into a first-person engine, which makes no fucking sense at all. And then they got some stupid plot about some cult bullshit that has nothing to do with the Call of Cthulhu, and then they slapped the name Call of Cthulhu on there in the hopes that fucking poor sods who didn't know any better would buy it. And then you get garbage like this. What the fuck is this? Wait, this is supposed to be a Shoggoth.
This is how Lovecraft described the Shoggoths in At the Mountains of Madness. It was a terrible, indescribable thing, vaster than any subway train. As shapeless concatenaries of protoplasmic bubbles, faintly self-luminous, and with myriads of temporary eyes forming and unforming as pustules of greenish light all over the tunnel-filling front that bore down upon us, crushing the frantic penguins and slithering over the glistening floor that it and its kind had swept so evilly free of all litter.
Yeah. And this is supposed to be Cthulhu. But he's not called Cthulhu. He's called Spot. Because this is a stupid baby movie for fucking stupid babies. So, what they've done here is, they've taken the writings of an author who is known for writing about horrors that are so terrible that even perceiving them makes a person literally go insane or even outright die. That is what a lot of Lovecraft stories are about. Or at least what is being featured in a lot of Lovecraft stories. Unimaginable terrors that are so horrifying that you literally can't exist once you know about them. And they made a fucking stupid kids movie out of it. And whoop-de-frickin-do, big fucking surprise is fucking garbage. And even, like, the Color Out of Space is fine as a movie. It has entertainment value. Completely disjointed from Lovecraft's story. But this fucking bullshit here is just a bad movie. Or a bad movie trilogy, if you want to count the fucking 2 retarded monkey sequels. It's just bad. The animations are bad and lazy. The backgrounds are bad and lazy. The voice acting is bad and lazy. The story is nonsensical and bad and lazy. It's just garbage. And it has nothing to do with the Call of Cthulhu. Why is there just a fucking village of deep ones on the surface just walking around? Like, fuck off. So why am I even talking about this fucking stupid bullshit? Well, that's an excellent question. I am, as usual, very, very glad you asked. So glad. The reason I am talking about this fucking bullshit is because I am here to remedy that shit, yo. I am going to make a game that faithfully, or relatively faithfully, adapts a Lovecraft story. And I think the best story to do this with, and the best medium to do this with, is a visual novel about the Call of Cthulhu. Because the narrator in the Call of Cthulhu, whom I intend to be the protagonist, he doesn't really do anything. And he doesn't really experience any of the stuff that is relevant. The entire story is basically just him reading notes from his dead granduncle and basically going to people and asking them stuff and reading the notes from some Norwegian guy. Like, nothing that happens in the story happens to him. He is just a vessel to relate the story towards the audience. And I think that would fit very well into a visual novel. Because if you took the very stupid idea of adapting the Call of Cthulhu into a first-person narrative, then the game would basically be walk to this desk, read this giant amount of notes, then walk somewhere else, read some more notes, and then walk somewhere else and read some more notes. I know some very misguided people actually think that that is what gameplay is, but it's not. It's garbage. Garbage. Trash. Rubbish. You're no kicky rubbish. So yeah, it's probably going to be a visual novel, and it's probably going to be the Call of Cthulhu. I also thought about Shadow over Innsmouth, because in that story, things actually do happen to the narrator. So you could have choices in the game, and I could make different endings, like the chase scene where he escapes Innsmouth and is being hunted by the Deep Ones. Like, I could make it so that if you fail that, you die and you get a different ending. Or you decide not even to go to Innsmouth and get another different ending. One thing at a time. Start slowly. I'm going to do this because my nose is itchy. And then I'm going to try to make the Call of Cthulhu into sort of a visual novel kind of thing. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Google and try and find out whether there is some kind of program or service which would let you very easily create a visual novel. If there isn't, I'm just gonna have to program it myself. Because I have the skills to program that. I've just never done something like that before, so it would take a relatively long time. I'm assuming there's some sort of visual novel maker. So I started yesterday with the freeware program RenPy. This is what the script looks like. Are you noticing anything? Yeah, it's Python. It doesn't have fucking semicolons. What the fuck is Python? Ugh, it hurts my brain. I literally never used Python before, and now I'm learning it while making this game. That's pretty cool, I guess. So this is what I got so far. Yeah, pans and on, they're fucking cool. Yeah. And this guy appears, yeah. Now, I think that is, yeah, the visuals, like those screens, I stole them from Overly Sarcastic Productions' video on Lovecraft. Those are just a placeholder. I'm just using them until I have something different, because obviously I can't just, steal them. And I don't know how to contact Overly Sarcastic Productions in order to ask permission.
This is what happens when you don't have the constitution for math.
So I'm just going to use them as a placeholder for now, and as soon as I have something else, I will replace them. Yeah, but that's how far I've got. No, fuck off. You can support me if you want by going to my Patreon and, giving me money so that I can, I don't know, buy cocaine in order to put the correct amount of insanity into the story, the game, whatever. Yeah. If you want to subscribe, try and click my face. Otherwise, watch some of the garbage which is currently here on this side, because some of that is actually probably worthwhile. Thanks for watching now, and yeah, fuck off.